At the beginning of 2023, I went and picked me up a KLX 140. It's the big wheel version, right? So I just got back into riding dirt bikes. I used to ride two strokes when I was a kid, and I wanted to get back into riding with my friends and all that. So they talked me into getting this bike. So I did what every person does. They bring it home, they modify it, they make it look like their own, and then I put it in the back burner. I bought me a KTM 250, and I started riding that for the rest of the season. Took it to the track. It was a two-stroke, something I was used to. Um, but I just felt like it was a lot to handle, right? The modern two-strokes are different from the old two-strokes. Had all kinds of power, but the biggest problem that I struggle with is how short I am. And I couldn't even touch the ground on the 250, even, lowering it down a little bit. But I still had a blast on this old two-stroke bike. It taught me a lot. I did a lot with it, and I had a blast on it. I really love the KTM, but like I said, it just wasn't fitting me that well. I felt like it wasn't fitting my needs, and I wasn't 100% comfortable on it. And as you can see, we do a lot of woods riding, trail riding, hill climbs, a lot of rocks, a lot of ruts, and stuff like that. So it got me thinking, like, I'm going to enter into a hair scramble race, right? Maybe I can see what it's all about. So I entered into that, did that. I wasn't out there winning or anything. Come almost in last place. I was probably the slowest guy on the track. But it got me thinking about something. This bike's not going to work, and I just don't fit this bike right. And I'm never going to be confident on it if I don't fit a bike right. So that's what brought me back to the old KLX 140 that's been sitting in my building for all this time, rusting away. So I was sitting there looking at my bike one day, and I was like, this bike fits me really well. It just lacks in a few areas. It has full-size wheels. It does lack in power. That's with a big bore kit. And I'm not a big fan of the plastics because you never could find them anywhere. But I kept thinking about every time I rolled up on this thing, people would laugh because they're like, you got a little pit bike with big wheels. And I'm like, people are going to make fun of me. So I got off work one day and I was messing around on the internet and I found a group of guys that do hard enduro with KLX 140s. And there's nobody laughing at each other. These guys are going full bore hard enduro with a KLX 140. It's in a different country, of course, but they're having a blast on these things. And I got to see how they treat them and what they do, and they're just having a blast, having fun. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I might be able to build me something that can actually work, that fits my need. So I thought to myself, how can I build an enduro bike that is powerful, that looks cool, and that nobody will really laugh at me when I pull up at the trail, the track of this thing. And this is what come to mind. We took a KLX 140 and made it fit my needs. We put a 250cc engine on this thing, swapped the plastics out for KX 100, and the rest is the KLX 140, and let me tell you, this thing does rip. I love the KLX 140. It was a fun bike. It did lack in a lot of areas, the suspension and the engine. We even upgraded parts on the engine itself, and it still just lacked. This is the engine out of the KLX 140. As you can see, it had some upgrades to it. We even put a big bore kit on this thing, and I did not like it. It didn't give it enough power. We updated the carburetor. We did all kinds of stuff to it, and it was okay. That's all I can say, right? So there is a dirt bike out there. It's a 250. It's called a KO K4 250, and they came with a 250cc dirt bike engine that's well known from China. It's a copy of the Honda, the big brand motors, putting that engine in this bike with a big bore kit. So it makes it roughly around 300 cc's. I know I talked about putting a two-stroke engine in this bike, and everything lines up. I can get the engine to fit. The problem that I have is the frame's not built to really put in radiators, and that's the problem that I had. Now, could I made it work? Yes, but it looked janky. Another thing that you guys kept saying that you can already buy like a KX 100, a KX 80, two-stroke, and stuff like that, and it'd just be pointless, which you are correct. So basically, we're going to start from scratch. We stripped this thing all the way down to the frame, took the engine out, swing arm, all that stuff off. Basically, what we're going to do is throw the engine in, mock up where we want everything to go. Eventually, down the road, we're going to get different shocks and different forks and stuff like that. But we're going to be focusing on putting the 250/300cc engine in this bike. This motor sets right in here, no problem, in the mounting locations. But let's go ahead and see if we can get this pipe in here and see what it's going to look like. Now, this is a Honda 230 exhaust kit that was $90. Like I said, I did cut it in half, where we're setting at when we get it tightened up. This will be over here anyway, so we kind of want this pipe about right here. All right, that looks pretty mean. So we do have to do a little trimming, which this will be a little bit later on down the road after I get the plastics in. But we have to do a little trimming on the exhaust. It's going to be setting somewhere in here. So basically, we're going to have a pipe back here. A little bit of trimming we got to do, but not a whole lot. Like I said, I want to get the plastics on because we're using a KX plastic kit, and I want to make sure the exhaust fits right, so the end of this exhaust will be last. As long as I got my header pipe run around the engine where I want it. Honestly, that's all I wanted to see. So it's going to set about right here. Got to elbow it over, mount it right here. It's going to be pretty sick. This is getting painted also. So it's actually on sale. These usually go for about $100. I got it for $65. So we got all the wiring done. We got all that stuff done. Now I want to see if the tank does fit, because you want to make sure the tank fits, because if not, you're going to have to do some rerouting. Like I said, there is a motor mount on the top right here. You have to trim that off in order for your tank to fit. I do know that. Sets right down in there. That's sick. Everything is fine. The dipstick is a little close, and the kicker is a little bit close to the foot peg. But I'll be mostly using the electric start. That's what I like about this engine. It has both. So if you get stranded in the woods, you can start this thing by foot instead of relying on electric start, which I didn't like that on the KLX 140. I wanted to keep everything in the stock location, like the coil, it's in the stock location. The rectifier over here is in stock location. There is a solenoid over here, and then I have the CDI box right here, which it'll get mounted in a piece of rubber. I'll show you the mounts that I did here. So here is the engine up close. As you can see, it went right in the mounts, no problem, right? If yours are tweaked a little bit, you might have to spread them out, but it went right in, no problem. Mounts are stock mount locations. I just turned the brackets the other way. So I have a mounting point here and here. What I'm going to do is drill a hole in this frame. As you can see, here's where the hole used to be. I'm going to drill a hole in this frame and put a nut and bolt there. And I did the same thing on the other side. Here's a lot clearer view. We just flip the mount over. Here's the original mounting hole. But here's the mount here, a mount hole here, and then we're going to drill a hole right here. And that's it for that piece and the bottom. So here's the mount you have to grind off at the top so it clears your tank. As you can see, the tank is setting flush, setting down on there. Everything is cleared. And another thing is the dipstick clear, so you can get it out. So when it comes to the stock mounting brackets, they are together, right? So what I ended up doing was cutting them in half and slotting it a little bit, and we're going to put them like this. It's being held up back here, and it'll be held up right here. And then we're going to do the same thing with the leftover bracket that we have. We're going to paint them black and make them look good and all that, and you won't even know. We just cut them in half, ream that hole out a little bit, and that's what's going to happen here. And then you'll have some right down here, just like this. So it's going to have motor mounts all over this thing, and it should be fine. Here's the pipe. You do have enough room. Mounts up just fine. The clearance on this is fine because this will be pulled forward. Other than that, like I said, here's the kicker. Other than that, this thing almost like it belongs in there. We have enough room up in here. There's plenty of space up in here. I don't see an issue with anything. And now it's just putting stuff back together, honestly. So I know a lot of you guys are probably wanting to know if this engine will fit with stock plastics. And I am running a KLX 100 side plate. I always have since I got this bike. I went ahead and zip tied everything together just to show you that everything does work with this bike. I'm still working on the exhaust. I'm going to take it in a little bit and keep it away from the head. We might wrap it. I'm not sure. That way it keeps the heat down on my leg. But everything comes together perfect with the stock plastics. You don't need to do a plastic swap like I'm going to be doing. You can run the stock plastics if you want. So we got all the plastics mocked up. We're just kind of seeing what it would look like and what I have to trim and what kind of mounts I have to make. But we did get it running. And there is some things I have to button up. The front motor mounts, I have to wait for the bolts for those to come in and make a full exhaust. Got to make brackets for the KLX 100 plastics. The only thing we can't use is the rear KLX 100 rear fender. I have black fork socks coming. I'm taking those green stickers off. Got to redo the seat cover and stuff like that. But other than that, everything come together super nice on this bike. I mean, for an old KLX 140, this thing's going to be a ripper for sure. So here is the bike. It is complete. We got all the plastics mocked up. We got all the brackets made. We got everything wrapped up. I actually did the wiring harness the right way, wrapped it up, make sure, you know, it's not going to get against heat and stuff like that. But another thing is, everything was done right on this bike. It just wasn't thrown together. We didn't just throw a random engine in there. We did the wiring harness right. We wrapped it, sealed all the plugs and all that good stuff. Now, we are going to upgrade the forks in the future, but as of right now, we're just going to leave it alone until we get to test this bike out and see what it really needs. Now, I have lost a lot of weight within the last year. I did lift the suspension up on this bike with spacers in the forks and a spacer on the spring and a linkage flip. So this bike sits pretty high now. But now we got everything together. We got all the plastics on. If you want to know how to run KLX 100 plastics on your KLX 140, if I get enough people that want to know how to do it, I will show you how I did it. This is solid. I mean, you're not going to rock this plastic off this bike. The only thing that I use from the KLX 140 is the rear bumper or the rear fender, because the rear fender for the KLX 100 is totally different you'd have to cut your subframe, and I'm not about to do that right now. I wanted to build the ultimate trail bike, the ultimate woods bike, because that's what I do down here. I'm too old for speed. I'm not looking to win motocrosses. But what I do love is riding in the woods. I've always been in the woods ever since I was a young child. And I like riding a dirt bike in the woods. And I had my KTM and it didn't fit my needs. It didn't really do what I wanted to do in the woods. It was a bear. It was either too much power or not enough power. That's just an old two-stroke for you. This thing, I can already tell the low end torque that this engine has and the gearing that we did. It's going to be plenty for climbing and trail riding in the woods, and it's going to be a pretty awesome bike. So let's roll this thing out of the building, take it for a spin, and see how it does.